All right. Hello, everybody. It's your boy Nondairi, and today we're here with a very, very special guest. As you all know, you tuned into this stream for a great reason, and that's because we have the creator of Lost Relics here with me, Cliff Cawley. Now, as you guys know, I've been waiting for this for a few months now, and Cliff has generously allowed me to have this conversation with him. So, everyone, please give a round of applause for Cliff. And for those of you guys that don't know, Lost Relics is an action RPG where players go into dungeons with hopes of fighting monsters, opening chests for the purpose of leveling up their characters, refining and retuning their skills, as well as the opportunity to earn blockchain items. So without further ado, let's let Cliff just give a short intro.
Hey Nondairi, thanks for having me. I know it's been a couple of months now since I last promised you a stream. Just been kind of held busy, like very busy. Just focus on first Halloween and then ended up being Christmas. So thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. So, before we get started, I just wanted to mention, Cliff, I know when you were on Striker's stream, you mentioned, or not mentioned, but I saw you wearing a Lost Relics t-shirt. It looked like it was a dry fit sort of material. So my question, is just before we get started with the official AMA, are we going to be seeing any Lost Relics merch, like t-shirts, anytime soon?
You mean like maybe like something like this or
Oh my, is that a
something
garrote
like
on the
that?
t-shirt?
Yeah,
Wow.
it is. So, we will be. It's taken a long time to do because I've been checking out a number of companies. I have to get the merch sent out to make sure I'm happy with the quality, and
Mhm.
and then switched out. Like I've already changed twice now, so the one I've chosen or rested on seems to be pretty good. I haven't received the merch yet from them, but I might actually have to just go live with it. So, hoping to do that when I release for the Christmas update. So, yeah.
Perfect, perfect. And again, just before we get started with the AMA, I just want to ask you, Cliff. I hope everything's going well. With you, I know that Christmas is coming soon, so I hope you have some plans with the family, of course, on top of releasing the event. So again, just want to make sure everything's going well with you. I know you just said you've been busy for a few months, so just again, hope everything's going well.
Cheers. Yeah. We'll see what happens with the event. The Halloween event went pretty well, so that it was a nice and smooth launch. Um, and I'm hoping that the same thing will happen with Christmas. So if that happens, then I should just be able to be monitoring and maybe not doing as much on active development or anything during the Christmas break. So yeah, I'll spend it with family.
Perfect. So, for those of you guys that are new to the channel or just new to, being able to experience an AMA with Cliff, just know that I have a list of questions here that I'm going to be asking Cliff. A couple of questions at the very end for those that, provided some questions in the Discord. Dr. Loot was so nice enough to be able to poll and select which questions were, selected at the end. Again, fan driven questions. And the idea is that the questions that I ask, it's possible that Cliff may not be able to provide a sufficient answer just due to speculation or just because it's things that are beyond answering. So you know
What kind of questions do you have lined up?
well, so again, guys, if Cliff doesn't answer a question, it's just because of those reasons. So, again, let's just be grateful that Cliff is here. So, without further ado, let's get right into the first question. And the first question I have is, I took a look at the in-game wallet and I saw there were roughly 20 to 30 founders tokens that were numbered in succession. So my question is, what exactly do you plan to do with those founders tokens?
So they were the very, very first item that I ever minted, and it was also the first time I'd ever done NFTs. When I created those, I just created a few extra in case there were any issues with any sales in the shop, or if I ever had to fall back on something or someone claimed that they didn't get anything.
Hmm.
That's what I'm going to do with them. I'll probably melt them. I did talk about that before. Cost a fortune to do that.
Hmm.
Has done for a while. I've forgotten that they were in there actually. So, but yeah, most likely that's what's going to happen with them. Is that they'll just be melted. It also really depends on what happens with moving forward to Efinity and the future and stuff. So,
Hmm.
it could just mean that I'll move items across into a new platform and I can just recreate them with a smaller supply, without melting anything. It's just they end up having a smaller supply to begin with.
Okay. So I guess when I had seen the founders tokens in the in the in-game wallet, I guess my thoughts were that maybe you were saving this for the future because as we know, Lost Relics is a game that's you know it's still developing and it's an early access version. So I guess my thoughts were that if whenever we got more players in the game at some point, these may be available for giveaway, which I can understand from a founders token holder perspective that this may be deemed unfair, but it's something for the community. So again, I kind of thought maybe it'd be done for giveaway purposes.
Yeah, I hadn't really done. I mean, everyone's got their opinion on it.
Hmm.
Some people are going to be upset for that. Some people won't. Um, I haven't really thought about what's going to happen with them. Like I said, I'll probably end up melting them, but I mean, I could always do some sort of giveaway. It's not like I've increased the supply. The supply has always been the same, and
Exactly.
I can't change the supply. It's like I've always said with all the weapons and items and things like that. If you're pricing your items based on what the current amount of items is that's out in the world instead of the total supply, and expecting that to remain constant, then you're doing it wrong. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what'll happen. I guess we can maybe do a vote or something, or have a think about what's going to be best for that going forward. But I've only ever thought I'd probably just melt them. It's not like I'm going to sell them again. But
Fair
maybe
enough.
giveaways or something like that. I'm not sure. No plans.
Fair enough. So speaking of the game and kind of how founders tokens were for when the game came out very early, in like in terms of stages. I remember when I first started playing Lost Relics back in Easter. I remember like whenever we would go into adventures or just be even in the game. I remember that there was a screen like a small little watermark that noted pre-alpha. Now, I know you changed this. I believe it was once the forging update came out to now it's saying early access. So I just want clarification, perhaps, on the idea of the game. Is it in pre-alpha? And if it is, will there be an alpha or perhaps even a beta for the game later on?
Um, it kind of doesn't align to the standard development notions or anything. The reason I kind of changed the name or changed that label a couple of times is because when people stare at something long enough, it almost becomes invisible. So when it changes or moves around or whatever, they might just notice it again and kind of remind them. There's so many people that come in that say to me, "Why can't I do this?" The tutorial, for example, the beginning tutorial is rubbish. I can't learn anything from it. You need to teach me how to do all this, like everything step by step. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, in a finished game, sure, but it features and stuff change a lot at the moment. And I've already redone the tutorial at least 3 times. And the one that's there at the moment is kind of loosely driven by the beginner quest and some tooltips and pop-ups and stuff. So it's as good as it'll get for the moment. There's no need to really do that. As to what development stages are coming, I don't know that it's ever going to be necessarily moving into an alpha and then a beta and then a release. It's just always going to be in development. So I imagine that there's a point where I'll just remove that label, and you kind of just live, but we're always changing and always moving forward. I just want to get to a more consistent and a little larger feature set before I go ahead and say that, I guess. And that's when I kind of like will turn everything on. Like, okay, everyone come in. Like all the there's a ton of new drops. Everything's balanced as much as possible. Yeah, I think that's where it'll go.
So that's kind of interesting. You note that this is your kind of rendition of this being a live game, and it does make sense, and that this is early access. Whenever you kind of see some of these other games coming out, for example, New World when it came out, they had like a beta version released and then an official version. So I guess whenever I was thinking about this game being in pre-alpha early on, uh, I guess I kind of have the notion that all the items that you're making at the moment are kind of like alpha or beta NFTs. Um, and then the items that you release going forward, once the game stops having that watermark and it's just kind of a a live game, would be items that are non-alpha, non-beta NFT related. So that's kind of why I wanted to bring up this question. So I guess
Um,
yeah. So do you have any thoughts
yeah,
on
I don't
that?
know. I mean, yeah, it depends. Like the features and stuff. I wouldn't really call it out of alpha or anything until we've at least got co-op in there. But there's a few things that I want to build out a little bit more first before I sort of call it ready. Your example of New World, I mean, they said they had a beta, but I'm pretty sure I heard that they've changed a lot since, and they keep changing things, and they've got problems. So it doesn't really change anything. It's just a label that they used to have almost like a smaller subset of players come in and play it.
Sure.
And like right now, you see they're getting smashed in reviews.
Hmm.
So many issues and things like that they're trying to clean up. I kind of feel sorry for them, but um, they're still developing. They're still going in it. I don't think it's going to be any different for Lost Relics.
Yeah. And I think it's actually interesting that you bring up the idea of, again, in this example, New World, and it, being ever so changing. I actually have a couple of questions about that. Um, I know that your original vision for Lost Relics was that you wanted it to be an arcade style game, and an example being that early on in the game, like last year, it would cost roughly, I think, 25 cents, maybe 10 to 25 cents to enter in a dungeon using some sort of token, which kind of does feel arcade to me. Like I put in a coin into a pinball machine, I put a quarter into Pac-Man, and I'm playing it like an arcade style game. Do you still believe that Lost Relics is still an arcade game? And if so, what is like how do you define arcade in terms of Lost Relics now, as opposed to the original vision?
I mean, it's totally different now than what it was and where I was originally going with it. The arcade style was more supposed to be, the fast-paced combat and twitch mechanics where you're doing fast reaction and stuff. Um, yeah, I guess for where it is now, I mean, I still have some of that combat in there, and it's not like your traditional RPGs where you just click a button once and it auto battles for you.
Hmm.
You still need to do that, and you still need to do combat. I do take shortcuts on some things too, so that it's not such a long drawn out process. Like you're not having to run on an open world through various lands to get to the northern area so they can go to the ice lands or something.
Yeah.
They kind of just teleport you there. So some of that stuff is still arcadey
Hmm.
in that regard, but um, it's pretty much the community that's changed all that. Everyone's like
Right.
demanding that I make it deeper, and they want to have grinding more, and they want to have things take longer, and all that sort of culminates in making it more challenging for some players, so that it gives value to those actions and items. So it's starting to turn into like a deeper RPG or an MMO in terms of the feature set, grinding and skills and that kind of stuff. So yeah,
Hmm.
there's still some shortcuts in there that you'll see that sort of has more of an arcadey feel. So
Awesome. So, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like how each time I ask a question and you have an answer, it's kind of leading to the next question. I'm like, it's already starting off great. So you kind of mentioned this idea that early on the game was, your vision, and that players within the community are kind of changing this vision with the sort of suggested feedback that they have in the Discord, or just perhaps even in general chat if you're lurking in there in the game. So one thing I want to mention is last year, again, I'm just going to bring up last year. I heard that there was this idea where players could go into a dungeon and access deeper levels within the dungeon. The idea was that the deeper you go, the riskier it gets in terms of monsters and reward chances. This also involved selectively choosing which items you kept in your inventory. Um, for example, if you have a blockchain item in your inventory and all your slots are full, but then you kill a monster and you see there's a potion and you're about to go to the next dungeon level within the same instance, you would probably want to pick up the potion if you're wanting to take the risk. And so, but when I heard about this again, I started playing in around Easter time. So to me as a new player and not having experienced that game mode, I would think that this sounds like an awesome game mode, and I would want to implement this. I'm not sure how many people from the original, Lost Relics game from last year when they were experiencing this game mode are still here, but I would think that, again, to me and to other new players, this sounds like a great idea. So is this something that you would maybe want to bring back in, just for new players to experience?
Yeah, so it'll be coming back as a game mode. It's not going to be the general adventures, I don't think. Um, I can't remember now what led us to where we are today with that.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I can't remember what the change was. Might have just been confusion around how that mode works or something like that. Um, yeah, I can't remember actually why that got changed. But yeah, no, all that kind of thing and some other game modes and that sort of thing will be available within the game still. And the similar kind of thing with Arena, and that is a different game mode. So
Mhm.
you'll be able to experience just a bit of a break from the standard adventures and how they work and function.
Yeah. So yeah, awesome. Thank you for that, Cliff. I think the idea of varying game modes does kind of bring back this definition of arcade to me. I still remember there being these arcade machines that had multiple games in it, and you could just put in a quarter, and you could be playing Snake, you could be playing Pac-Man, you could be playing Alien Invaders, and so I think this idea of varying game modes is very unique, not just to Lost Relics, but just to the blockchain game, gaming space in general. Because when you think about action RPGs, sure there are like multiple avenues that you can pursue within an action RPG with your character, but I don't really recall there being multiple game modes in the sense of just there being a story arc and then of course a little bit of PvP. So again, I think this is awesome to hear, and I'm sure the people in the chat are very excited about this.
Yeah, I'm not seeing chat at all at the moment. I've got all the windows closed, so
Yeah.
I'm not ignoring you if any of you are trying to get my attention or anything. I just don't have it on.
Same, same. I'm not trying to ignore you guys. I'm just, very first AMA for those of you guys that don't know. I was telling Cliff earlier that I'm excited to, be able to have Cliff as, the first person that I'm ever having an AMA with, especially in terms of the game developer side. So, I'm not trying to ignore you guys. Just want to make sure that I get you guys the information that you're possibly looking for. So whenever we, and more specifically you, think about the progress of Lost Relics and the changing and the changes that have been made, I guess henceforth the progression. When you think about Lost Relics having an awesome last year in general, just last Christmas event, then we fast forward a few months to Easter, fast forward a few more months to most recently, the Halloween event. Things have changed in terms of dungeon maps, monsters, overall gameplay. So I guess my question is, are you happy with the current trajectory of the game? More specifically, like, whenever you think about how it was back then to now, do you think that things are going well?
I think so. I mean, it's different to what I said, how I originally envisioned it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of being led and driven a little bit by what people want. And I also still have my own ideas for where I want things to go. I do have some help at the moment with game design and ideas and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You can see in the credits, I'm getting help from Corey at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's up to him whether he wants to sort of say hello and that kind of thing. It's kind of a personal thing whether people want publicity and stuff. But he's been an amazing source of some of the knowledge for some of the MMO and RPG gameplay systems and other things. And some of the decisions I've made have been from him. Um, and so I guess, yeah, where it's going, there's still quite a bit of changes. Like I'm well aware that the maps, for example, they're all just pre-made rooms. And the idea was originally to keep creating new rooms. They're then stitched together. So the issue with that is that you will eventually kind of figure out, you walk into this room, it kind of looks the same as another one that you saw. Usually what you do there is just randomize some of the objects that are inside in order to give it a bit of variety.
I see.
Um, but it's still a lot of work. So every time I want to add a new theme, it's a lot of work to set up all these rooms, and then I have to create. I've only got like a couple of rooms for each theme at the moment, and they already take a couple of days to make a
Mm-hmm.
new theme. So, for example, I'm working on a change with that. I gave a little bit of a leak in the Discord and Telegram channels.
Mm-hmm.
Um, where I've kind of shown a little bit of a different generation going on there. So that'll be coming after Christmas. It won't make it for this release, but it's going away from those pre-made and stitched rooms to an actual completely procedurally generated dungeon or adventure. So you won't walk into a room and recognize it. It'll provide, or it basically generates more circular paths and things. So you can walk down one path and it might double back and you can kind of come back around to the main path again. It'll also provide some other things, like maybe off in one room there's a particular event you can do that needs to be solved in another room further down. Maybe there is a door that you can't get past unless you've got a key to go back to. All that stuff is what I'm also working on at the same time. I've kind of had to pause some of that for the Christmas stuff, but like I say, it's always evolving and changing as we go forward, as there's new ideas and new direction coming in. So there's still a rough, loose idea of where I want to get to before I sort of say, okay, I'm kind of done in terms of adding new things. I can just pump out the content now, and that's when you'll see those kind of things expand. Like new themes and that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. So I think it's great that you're talking about the idea of, again, even further progression, and that being just dungeon maps. I guess the way we could probably coin this is new map generation system, perhaps, just because of the idea that each room is not going to be the same. And I know, just watching a few Lost Relic streamers, early on, and trying to get an idea of how to go into dungeons. I remember there was this rule of five. If you go into a dungeon, a castle like dungeon, for example, like Forgotten Chambers, Mount Old Kept Caverns, Arcane Pits. If you counted out five rooms and you didn't see a dead end, you could just run back and go the other way, and it's most likely a dead end. So I think, again, this idea of new map generation, a system being implemented for that is great. And so to even add on to the idea of progression within dungeons, I want to note that I'm sure you've probably seen this, but some players within the game and on Discord have been talking about how the progression of the game feels slow at certain points. But just to further clarify that, what we mean is the skill gathering at this point seems to be kind of a slow burn, if that's the right term. And so I guess right now, what do you think about the gathering skills? So we know, for those of you guys that don't know, Cliff released an article back in September, relating to forging, as well as the idea of specialized nodes for whichever rarity map you entered. So for example, if you're in Mount Olkept, you're going to be getting legendary mining nodes as well as legendary fishing nodes. So I guess, again, just to ask the question again, what do you currently think about the gathering skill update that you implemented? Do you think it's going to remain, or do you think that you could possibly see a change in the future?
You had a couple of questions in there.
Yeah,
I'll answer one of them with another question for you.
sure.
You said something about the length of time that it takes. Are you saying it's like a slow burn?
Yes.
How long do you feel that it should take you to level up to max level in every single skill?
It's a very good question. And so when you think about, if you're somebody, because see, I guess my answer is not gonna be as clear, but if you're talking about somebody who grinds the game, as in puts in hours in the game, you can see the results happening. So for example, if you're a new player, I remember Tyranitar telling me that one of his friends started playing Lost Relics. He got from level zero fishing and mining to level 10, I think, within the span of like 8 hours. And that's great, because the amount of experience you need to level up at that point is, it's I mean, it's there. But if you're talking about somebody who's trying to grind for level 30 to 40, I could see that taking a couple of days, even if you're like you're a super grindy player. If you're somebody who plays the game casually, you're probably not going to see results. Like, for example, if I play the game for 3 4 hours and I'm going in Vemon Desert working on my scavenging, it may take me a couple of days, maybe even 3 or 4 days to even see a level so I know that doesn't answer your question, but I think
Well,
for
it kind of does.
yeah.
You kind of answered your own question, because uh, for those people, it kind of needs to account for everyone in the whole
Hmm.
population. And that's really hard to do because if I have people who are playing 16 hours a day, and some of them do, and you were able to level up your skills at a rate that it feels good for a new player who plays 1 or 2 hours per day,
Hmm.
then that person grinding it is going to be done with their skills in what, a day or two. Like
Exactly.
that's not the point. Like, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Hmm.
um, it's not meant to be done in a week or 2 weeks. Like, it's a long term investment for your time and in the community and that sort of thing. You're not supposed to be able to get in there and be done in 2 weeks and that's it. Um, yeah, it shouldn't. I don't know why so many people are racing ahead and complaining about how long it takes. Like,
Hmm.
you played it for 2 days and you sort of don't like how long it takes. It's like, well, that's just how long it has to be in order to last long enough um, to be worthwhile. If everyone could level up their skills in a day or two, then where's the skills market? You know, you're finding items from mining or you're creating items with forging. No one's going to buy those items if they can all just level up within a day or two um, as themselves. Like, you'll just be creating these items and no one's going to buy it. The point is, some people will enjoy that grinding for a long time and other people won't. And for those that don't, instead of complaining that it's going to take too long, your method, I guess, is to spend your time elsewhere and you just buy the what everyone else produces. That's kind of how it works. It works like that in every other game too. So um, yeah, I guess, I mean, that sort of answers that half of it. The other part of your question,
Hmm.
you were sort of asking about whether there's any changes coming to the recent change I made.
Yes.
There was another leak, which I'm assuming you're probably referring to,
Hmm.
where you could see two nodes in the one adventure.
Hmm.
So yeah, so I mean, there's some changes coming around that. I haven't really revealed what that is, but I guess it's pretty obvious from that screenshot. I mean, why don't you tell me what you think it is?
So I think the idea behind it is that there are certain maps where users are able to mine nodes that aren't within their reach, and there are nodes that they can not mine but just be able to gather within their reach, and the ones that aren't within their reach. For example, if I'm somebody who's trying to go into Mount Olcap and I don't have the fishing necessary, possible for me to still try to get some sort of resource out of it. At least that's what I got out of
That seems pretty like a good guess.
it. So, and I think that that's a great it's a great leak. It definitely does address some people wanting to be able to enter the game. If I could just segue here real quick, some people kind of argued, and some people, being me, of course, I mentioned in the stream before that um, it kind of does stray people away from the game. That if they've already bought blockchain items in the beginning, because they're kind of already ready. They've watched a few YouTube videos, they've watched a few Twitch streams, and they're like, okay, I'm going in, and they buy themselves a legendary set, and they're thinking, oh great, I'm gonna go into old kept caverns, and come to find out that they can't gather skills. One thing that I've kind of noted many times on my stream is like, you don't have to do the skill gathering. If you're somebody who just bought the blockchain items, if you're looking for blockchain items and you put in an investment to Lost Relics NFTs to play the game, you don't have to gather the skills. But people just feel in their mind like, I need to non-dairy. It's like, well, you don't. And then they say, but I do. And it's just an inherent notion. So,
Yeah, it's the human brain again. Like,
hmm.
it really sets you up for failure all the time. You look at some other MMO games on RPGs, and you actually can't do gathering on their adventures or going into battle and hitting monsters and stuff. You don't do that. Instead, that's like your timeout in those games. So you kind of go to the village or wherever, and you go into the mine that's there, and you just sit there and you just mine coal and ore and iron and whatever over and over and over and over and over again. Like, that's it. You're not attacking monsters and doing other things.
Hmm.
You're just grinding for that. Whereas I've combined them, and for whatever reason, people now feel that if they're not doing both activities at once, that they're missing out. Um,
Exactly.
but
Exactly.
you don't. I mean, you don't have to. If you don't enjoy doing skills
Exactly.
and stuff, you can buy your items. There seems to be a huge fear amongst people in spending anything, whether that's virtual gold or whether that's cryptocurrency. There's that old adage of you've got to spend money to make money.
Mm-hmm.
That comes true. Like you might need to like maybe buy this item and sell it for something else later on in order to get access to something else. I don't know, whichever. Like there's so many different dynamics that come into play.
Mm-hmm.
If you just go in with the mentality that you only want to acquire things for free and you're going to sell it for millions of dollars, and everyone does that, then nothing's going to work. The only reason an economy works is if there's people who actually want to buy and sell. You can't just have one or the other. It doesn't work.
I agree.
So,
I agree.
like, it's the same with the skills. Like, not only items, but if there's no demand for skills, if the skills are so easy to do, everyone's just going to do their own skills, and then the stuff that you produce from those skills, there won't be any demand for, because you're just going to be like, oh well, I'll just make it myself. I don't have to spend any gold. I can keep hoarding all my gold. Just things like that.
So, so I think I think you kind of touched on a point that kind of leads me to my next question. This idea of supply and demand, in terms of like in terms of the items you were talking about. If we can just again segue to now the blockchain side, so I've noticed that if I could just quote my list of questions here. If we can just talk about blockchain items for a minute, some are arguing that rather than releasing more blockchain items, it would be better to focus on the blockchain items you have at the moment and ensure that they all have use cases prior to making new items. So, for example, if we're looking at some of the items in game in terms of the resources, not even the weapons having some sort of effect, but just some of the items, like, for example, let's just throw in Delta Diamond in there. Some would argue that rather than releasing perhaps maybe even more resources that are blockchain related, like for example you did the blockchain item swap a little while back, um, it would make sense to pause and stop implementing new blockchain items again and try to make use cases for all current blockchain items out there. I guess, what are your thoughts on this?
There's people that say there's no blockchain items,
Mm-hmm.
make more items. Then there's people who say don't release any more items. It's constantly conflicting.
It is.
The reason that some items don't have effects just yet is because the features that they'll be used for don't exist yet. Mm-hmm. So if I was to add an effect to them, you still can't use them. There's stuff like that going on. And then there's also events. So if I was to run an event, does that mean I'm never supposed to release any blockchain items for events? Like, it's limited time or limited stocks, and you can only get it at that time. Like, you can argue all over the place. Like, does it really matter? Like, why are you bitching and whining about it? It doesn't. Like, who does it help? I'm making sure that I'm not like oversupplying the entire player base with items. Mm-hmm. I've had to stop signups, or I stopped signups to make sure that I was getting there's an account that's created like at least 2 or 3 accounts every minute. Mm-hmm. During Easter, I think it was about 20 or 30 accounts every minute, and it was just too many people coming in for the amount of items that were there to be able to support them. Everyone comes in, they just want to earn items. They don't want to do anything else. They don't want to buy anything. They just want to sell everything, and they just want to find all their items. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm using limited items. There's only so many I can give away. You have 10,000 items total, and you've got 100,000 players.
Yep.
How are you going to spread those out? How are you going to make that last for like a month? If your drop rate for those is 50%, and you've got 100,000 players and there's 10,000 items, your items are going to be out in a couple of seconds. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't matter what I say. I won't be correct in someone's mind. They'll criticize me over something, how they would do it somehow different. But it doesn't matter, because it doesn't matter how you do it. You'll always annoy someone.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, as for the items, I do understand that everyone wants effects for the existing items. Some of them I can't do just yet. Some of them I wanted to drop in specific locations. But like I said, it takes a couple of days to make a new theme. And if I ever need to make changes, like when I go and make those lock-in rooms, I now need to make changes to all the other themes to upgrade them to use that. So I was trying to keep the themes down, so that when I need to make a change, like large changes like that, when those new features come in, it means less work for me. But it's just, yeah, it's not necessarily a good way to do it, because people get bored of the existing theme. So that's why I'm talking about, like, changing the way I do the adventure generation. I can now actually create themes with the new adventure generation in a couple of hours instead of a couple of days, and I can make changes to them within seconds instead of like a day. So, I'm making those kind of changes that you don't see, in order to make it faster for me to be able to push those things out and to get to the point where I can add the effects for those items, for those areas and environments and features and stuff that I want to be able to do. So, it's not just as easy as saying, yeah, just add all the effects to all the items.
Oh, I know.
Um,
Yep. I,
yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say, Cliff, I really gotta, I have so much respect for you, just because one, you're able to make a blockchain game that's playable, so you have a proof of concept, which is saying a lot more than other blockchain games that give you a white paper and say, hey, releasing some NFTs initially, and
Yeah.
we don't have a game yet, but we promise you there will be one in the future. So I respect you for that, and two, for being a developer, within a game, not even just a blockchain game, a game, because I know that being a developer is a thankless job. So just on behalf of the community, just thanks for still sticking with us, because I as well as well as I know that there's some people that say choice words and things about the game. So I know whenever you have to hear these things, you just got to push through it. So again, being a dev is a thankless job. So just thanks for being sticking with this. And then
Cheers. Well, thanks to everyone else who's sticking with me too. I know that some people will rage quit and leave, and sometimes some people just get annoyed and come back later, and that's fine. That's just part of how it is. I can't please everyone 100% of the time, so I'm just going to keep trying, going ahead, and keep building. So yeah.
so I think I think, again, just want to touch on a second part of this, where you're talking about, again, changing the themes within a matter of a few hours versus a few days. I know originally when I first saw your first AMA, which was on NFT Gamers, this idea that you had initially, which was a reverse onion style game where you have a strong core and you're building layers upon it. So the fact that you're changing the themes to maps within again, being able to do so within a few hours versus as a few days, it kind of sounds like you're changing the base. Is that right?
If I was to use the same analogy that I said, I guess it's maybe removing one of the layers that I put on
I
to the
see.
onion and
Okay.
then remaking it. Um, yeah, sometimes the way that things are done stay that way, and because other things need to hinge on them later that I'm planning for.
Hmm.
Um, and then other times I may need to just funnel back down and change everything based on feedback. Like the the number of complaints about that the changes to the gathering system have, in a lot of regards, been because of people's the way they had it first. It used to be you just go in and every node was the same. You just had a chance to get something random out of it. And when I updated that, people were like, no, I like the old thing better because that was easier. But there's no progression in it either. So adding progression and adding those layers and that sort of thing, you don't normally get a chance to, or you don't normally go through those sort of phases when you're playing other games, because they've already gone through them while they were in development. So yeah, or they've designed it a different way. I designed it originally, like I said, more of an arcade style. So I didn't even have skills or anything in there. All the skills were in items instead. There wasn't any concept of gathering and production or anything. That's only sort of something that I've had to react to and build out afterwards. So yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Thanks again for adding on to that. Yeah. I I I I just want to segue into the next question because I know we could talk about this idea for ages. I could even add on to the idea of the camera angles, but I'm just gonna keep pushing along here, and because I know because I heard a few things about the camera angles. But anyways, um, so I believe you went into AAA drifting stream quite a while back. Well, I'm not sure how long ago, but it was a little while ago, and you talked about housing being the next thing that's coming out. Is there any details that you can provide relating to housing for those people that may have just missed the stream and are just maybe getting little bits and pieces from other people? And you know how gossip can turn into something bigger. So, like for instance, can you tell us anything about housing in the sense of will houses be minted as NFTs? Or perhaps some perks related to housing within Lost Relics, just anything that you may be able to provide us at this point.
Yeah, I mean that's another example of something that wasn't really in there from the early days, and it's something I've had to think about and try and figure out how it's going to fit in to the direction that it's going now. Um, I don't. This is why I don't like saying what's coming up, because then people are like, "No, no, you said this is coming next. Where is it?"
Hmm.
I'm like, well, I had to change. I had to do something else. Like I was the adventure generation, for example, for me is quite critical right now because um, it's getting so long. Like I want to add a snow theme. It takes so long to add that, and if there's issues with it, it takes so long to change it. Like for me, it's critical because it's slowing me down. So that's kind of taken precedence. Um, yeah, in saying that, like I've only given a small amount of thought to the housing. I've said that it's coming in the future. I don't. If I said it's coming next, I might have been in a different frame of mind then to where I
Okay.
was planning. It was before the adventure stuff.
Okay.
In saying that, I mean it'll probably be similar where you can, yeah, you'll own a part. It'll be on the blockchain, like all these stuff that have been adding lately. I've had to pick it to be um, for a future blockchain, right? Because it's so expensive to make anything, um, and I can't. There's some features and things that I've just had to stop and push to the background that I can't do.
Hmm.
Doing other things are doing land sales and that kind of stuff. I've been asked so many times about doing that I have thought some of it. I don't have anything concrete to say, and I don't want to say anything now because I'll be just held to it. So
Yeah.
um, probably very loosely, yeah, it'll be something that you can buy, um, and you'll be able to own land, and I don't know, maybe um, your house as well, that you'll be able to have a different plan for or a different look for, whether that's like a little a hut or something like that, or up to a mansion.
Hmm.
Whether that's the land itself or whether that's the house, and then the things that you can decorate the house with as well. Um, yeah, I'm not going to flesh out any of that stuff. That's all kind of things
Sure.
that I'm thinking that I'm kind of planning for. But once I get that locked in, then it should come out pretty quickly.
Got it. Well,
So yeah.
yeah, well, I appreciate you at least giving us some sort of ideas for speculation. And again, guys in the chat, do not hold Cliff to any of this. Um, but I think it's great that Lost Relics is coming out with something in terms of like, assets, in terms of like property or, in that sort of sense. Because when you think about just in general, in terms of blockchain games or just even just the metaverse in general, it does seem like people want to be able to have some sort of like stake in it, and that not being just cryptocurrency or the NFTs themselves. They want some sort of virtual property, within that game or on that blockchain. So again, I think it's awesome to hear that Lost Relics is going to have housing,
Yeah.
because I can tell you what, I think back in Easter I hadn't even imagined or fathomed the idea of having any sort of real estate, within Lost Relics. So if
But
and when you
I
yeah.
mean, you guys know about Talmuth and stuff.
Hmm.
Uh, there used to be other locations. You could see the other doors and stuff like that.
Hmm.
There's a few changes to the map this time for Christmas that you'll see that should hint at a few things. It's not just Talmuth. That's the only location. Let's put it that way. And you might be able to buy land in another village somewhere. Um, there's this concept of staking that everyone has, which is um, in the traditional blockchain sense, it's a different concept to what games are using it for.
Yeah.
The way games are using it is just you're kind of just holding something, or you're holding items. You're not actually providing any sort of service in terms of validating the network or transactions or anything like that. So it's the way that it might fit into Lost Relics world. It could be something like you're in the village with everyone else, and you might be providing some services for people, and you get a cut of those services and that kind of thing. Like, who knows? It could be anything. Could be something like that. Can go in all kinds of directions depending on how I get to when I start actually, fully thinking about that feature.
Yeah. Awesome. Again, thanks for sharing little tidbits about the housing again. I know we appreciate every little detail we can get in terms of what's next. And I do have a question about that relating on, the fan question side. So we'll touch on that later.
Okay.
So the so another question I have about Lost Relics is, and I know you've heard this many times, but I would just like to get some sort of closure on this if possible. Pets. So do you see pets having utility in the future? Now, I know right now the current utility is that they can help you, be able to knock over statues, be able to knock over boxes so that you can get some coins. Being able to help you as the player avoid having to, knock over boxes and statues and so forth, so that you save time and you discover all the items in a bit more efficient rate. But again, do you see any sort of additional utility to pets? For example, like a pet could have a stat associated with it, thus buffing the player, or perhaps even the pet fighting alongside the player, which many have speculated the latter.
Yeah, look, the original thing there was I was selling outfits and pets on the store, and that was helping with generating an income. Back then, there's this constant thing that gamers are like, oh, if as soon as you buy anything, it's pay to win.
Right.
It's like, well, how does that work in blockchain space? Like, you're buying items that you want to have, and you'll be able to resell. It's just like in real life. Like, are you paying to win life? What exactly are you winning if you buy an item? Like, you don't buy a sword and suddenly you're number one on the leaderboard. You have to still use it. You still have to be good and use skill in order to get somewhere.
Yep.
So anyway, over time, originally I was avoiding it, and so therefore pets didn't have any function.
Yeah.
It was just sort of, they would follow you around. Then I added, after much requests, the ability for them to break items and that kind of thing. Now, I think, now that people are playing games a bit more and maybe learning that it's not simply about earning an income or a wage, it's also about maybe persisting in the world and being part of events and earning items, and then maybe letting go of those items later as you progress more in your skills and understanding and stuff. That all those kind of things have value anyway. And for pets, they're now sort of saying, why don't they attack?
Right.
They should be fighting with me. Why don't they pick up the items and carry them for me in some invisible backpack?
Right.
So yeah, to answer it, it was like, originally I was avoiding all that stuff because of that whole argument. But I think these days it's pretty moot, in that if you want to be able to resell any of your work and effort in a game, you're going to have to sell something, some item or something like that. And in some people's minds, they'll say it's pay to win, but that's just because they don't understand pay to win.
Yeah.
So going with that, yeah, there is plans for changing the pets. I don't know how much I've revealed about this at all. I think I've said something like, they will help you attack. They'll be kind of like a companion. Not sure about carrying, but they will also have their own skills, similar to, items and that kind of thing. I don't know. They're not going to all have the same. Like, right now, they all just different rarity.
Yeah.
Which has always been a kind of an odd thing. But the way I've been doing that has been, the more interesting or rarer looking pets have kind of been getting the higher rarity, and then therefore also a limited supply. And that was the only thing that differentiated them.
Yeah.
But I've got a system to map effects to those pets.
Hmm.
And it's not going to be like every pet has the same. Every pet will get something different. So a particular pet will have a different effect. But that's probably as far as I should say right now.
Definitely.
Um,
And just on yeah, I'll just cut you off right there because I think that was a very very generous little what do you call it? I guess a little
tidbit.
yeah, tidbit. Yeah, thank you for providing that, guys. If you didn't hear, that's a non-dairy exclusive, by the way. So, but I know I could jump down this rabbit hole even a bit more. But I will just throw this idea out here, just for you to listen in on, not to provide feedback on, and for the people in chat to listen in on. So the idea that pets could possibly in the future have stats associated with them in terms of helping attack alongside you as a companion. When you think about a relic like the egg demon and the snowflake, I think it's called, or the snowman relic, um
Frosty, yeah.
yep, Frosty, thank you. Um, the idea that they have health associated with them, when you unleash them, and the number of use cases being allowed to be used within a dungeon, I'm sure that those are things that may have to be factored in. So, just wanted to again throw that out for people to speculate on within, of course, the Lost Relics Discord, within the game in general, and for you to listen on Cliff. And I'm sure again you've already thought about that, but just wanted to
Yeah.
add.
There's several solutions obviously for that. You can either have them limited in terms of their lives in a dungeon, or you can have it so that they're on a timer, so they can only be respawned every whatever amount of time it is, and that kind of thing as well. If they're going to have health, because if they don't have health, they could also just be on a timer. So
Yeah.
there's like 3 different ways you could do that I've already thought about. So I just haven't picked which one it's going to be.
Awesome. Thank you for even adding on that, because I just kind of wanted to let people like settle in on it, but it's already kind of sounding like
Now they can speculate about which 3 it's going to be.
exactly. Again, guys, that's a non-dairy exclusive. Don't you forget that.
He's milking this one.
I think with with 3 months, I think a little interest accrued is necessary, but
I was
um
just giving you time to think up all these questions.
exactly, and again, I wouldn't have been able to think about these questions again if it weren't for you, and again, being able to create such a wonderful game, because there's so much speculation. Reading through the items themselves, having so many descriptions. I mean, the possibilities are endless. I mean, one that I've read out. Shout out to Bro Stud for this one. He told me to read about blooming sequoia, and blooming sequoia says the following in the item description: being used for, I think it was construction or housing or something, and that's what made me go off in the light bulb, like, holy crap, we could have housing one day. And so again, couldn't have thought about these questions if it weren't for you, and again, the items that you have in the game, the gameplay itself. So I think the last question I have for Lost Relics, before I jump on to the next topic, which will be about Efinity and talks about Efinity Lost Relics, is the idea that you said pay to win kind of made me think about the idea that um, back then, I think in Easter, you could buy a skin called a Ninja Kage for 500,000 gold, and you could also, I think, after the June update that you released, in terms of more maps being implemented in the game, and shifting around some of the maps, so forth, so on, the Kyle skin was then implemented along with I'm forgetting the other skin's name. Was it Mary or Alice?
May.
May, yes, May. So do you see the possibility of having more skins, or maybe even blockchain, just maybe blockchain items in general, being listed in the shop for gold as a purpose for either a gold sink, or just to maybe even accredit those Lost Relics players that have just been hodling their gold, and I guess it's kind of a reward when you think about it for those members who've been hodling their gold and or grinded the game so effectively and efficiently to where they've stacked so much gold.
Yeah, I mean, it was originally added as a gold sink and to
Okay.
kind of start pushing people in the order of giving them some goals to go for. That's the main thing. Whether those rewards stay the same or not is yet to be determined. Um, some of them were an experiment to see how people would react and what kinds of people would get driven to do that, and then how and who those items' hands they would end up in.
Hmm.
You know, if it ends up being that there's one player who ends up buying up all of those items, then is that really that good for the economy?
Right.
Um, I mean, probably not. It's good for that person, but the idea is to really spread the items out amongst everyone. And that's, I mean, that in itself is already hard enough to do with the randomness because
Hmm.
you could go into a dungeon and like roll a mythical and then immediately start another one and you'll get another mythical. Like
Hmm.
that's a chance for that to happen.
Yep.
Um, it's rare, but there is a chance because it's random. It's not weighted against you or anything. Um, obviously, yeah, there's so many things that come into that. Obviously, with limited items and stuff, and the way rolls work, trying to do rolls as fast as possible um, ends up meaning that you should theoretically be able to not beat the odds, but have a greater chance than someone else. Like that's how people think,
Hmm.
but it doesn't necessarily mean that either. And that's why pure randomness is so great. It also means like um, you can't just spend a heap of money on something and get a guaranteed item out of it. Because if you could do that, then I guess that is pay to win, right? You're just spending heaps amount of money to win the item that you're trying to get. Um, Instead, because it's pure randomness, there is no aspect of doing that. So introducing this way to buy specific items like that,
Hmm.
um, kind of a little bit touches on pay to win style. It's also rewarding you in a way for your longevity in the game and for stacking as much gold as you can. It's not like you can buy gold
Yeah.
in the game. You can't trade gold between accounts. So there's no opportunity for you to directly go and acquire a lot of gold for money. Um, you have to do that through other means, and other
Yeah.
people have to be involved in order for that to happen. But they can't be directly involved. Like, for example, if you want to get some gold quickly, you can go and resell pendants,
Yep.
but
Hmm.
there has to be people buying them, and they have to be willing to pay whatever the price is that you're going to sell it for. So it's market driven. It's not just you simply pay the game developer some money and get an item.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, there's so many different dynamics with that, and I understand that for some people that gives an easier goal than just randomness. But yeah, it kind of I don't know. It's a kind of a wavy area, I guess. I don't know how to call it. So
Hmm.
I'm not going to say that it's necessarily definitely going to come back or that there'll be definite goals like that. Um, but there are some other interesting mechanics that I can think of that might kind of be related to that, where you have to buy some items, perhaps. You have to actually spend money to acquire something to actually use it for something else. Like you've kind of got a little bit of that with the bounty system. If you want items that you can't find, you'll have to buy them from other players.
Hmm.
Or maybe you can spend your gold to acquire this thing that eventually unlocks something else and allows you to go on a particular quest for a chance to earn a blockchain item.
Wow.
Like it's a little bit indirect, but it's kind of more adventure and story driven and stuff than it is just simply spending gold to buy a blockchain item. So that kind of seems a bit more fun for me, at least. You know, it's like it's not giving you a direct path, and you have to know and understand that, and maybe you'll have to rely on the law to tell you something about that, to even know that that thing exists or what you would buy that for. Maybe I don't know.
I think that sounds like a
Something to think about.
really fascinating idea. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I actually have goosebumps right now because that it's like it because it's so crazy how just one change to the system can create so much more added gameplay. Like, you just hinted on this idea of, turning in a bounty and that bounty potentially leading you down a storyline. It's crazy because some people, kind of, arguing, that again, again, just mentioning just people, quote unquote, but they're not being content in the game. But it's like just one thing, like one simple thing like that can really change the notion of how the game is played, in terms of players wanting to like really be hardcore gaming in it. Because now it sounds like if this were to be implemented, you have gamers that are looking to progress their skills and grind the game just solely based off of a bounty system route, let's say. Just putting in your hours, finishing up those bounties, and just not even caring about the results, just getting those bounty chests, racking up your gold, and possibly looking for blockchain items within dungeons. Now it sounds like if this were to be implemented, you have players that are strategic, players that read blockchain items, read about the use cases, and speculate. So at this point in time, it sounds like people are speculating based on the description of weapons and or resources for potential holding, in the sense that they think that there's going to be a use case out of it. Now it's like, now I may start rereading up on the blockchain item descriptions and possibly like looking to see if there's a storyline associated with that if you were to go down this route. So I think just it's mind blowing.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of just tying it all together. I always said that from the start. I wanted to do that for a long time now. I keep saying that it just keeps getting delayed because I keep having to add different things. I have to spend time making it so that you can on trade in the game instead of on the blockchain because the blockchain's too expensive. So that took a chunk of time away from actually working on the gameplay systems.
Okay.
But yeah, it's kind of I've kind of had to react so many times that I think I've done like 3 or 4 changes to make it cheaper for everyone to trade or easier for everyone to trade. And in the end, I just recreated the blockchain essentially in the game so that everyone could trade their items gas free because the blockchain was too expensive. That's with the Emporium. It's kind of cool because it's a lot easier than using Nginx to do your trading or some third-party marketplace. It's right in the game. So ideally, I'd love to still do that, but just have it backed by blockchain stuff. And actually, some of the features of Efinity will allow that. So it kind of actually leaves for a segue into the Efinity questions if you want.
It does. It does. Again, I just feel like we're on a roll here. So I read into Efinity, which is, for those of you guys that don't know, I highly suggest that you look into this because Lost Relics is built on the Enjin platform, which is a layer 2 Ethereum solution. Efinity is Enjin's solution that they are hoping solves the issue regarding gas fees related to Ethereum, alongside with being a hub for all fungible and non-fungible tokens across multiple chains. There is also this idea that Efinity is a solution for developers such as Cliff and other blockchain dApps creators as well. So I guess with that being said, Cliff, what do you think of Efinity, and what are you hoping to gain out of it for Lost Relics? Because I know people are constantly asking why, or everyone's hearing the idea of Efinity, and Cliff waiting on Efinity for some sort of solution. So if you could try, just giving us some ideas for what you're hoping to gain out of it and what you think of Efinity, I would really appreciate it.
Well, I might go a little bit technical on some of the stuff, so I apologize if it's too much for some people. If it is, it might be worthwhile reading Enjin's white paper on how Efinity works and stuff. So, as everyone knows, there's plenty of different blockchains out there. Some of them support NFTs. Some of them have recently added contracts to allow you to support NFTs. Everyone's like, why haven't you moved to chain X or chain Y? Why didn't you start on chain Z? I'm like, well, that change was released last month, so how was I supposed to do that 2 years ago?
Yes.
The only thing available back then was Ethereum that had smart contracts, and then everyone was using it. It was a big thing, and it was super exciting. Gas cost 1 gwei, smallest possible unit. It costs you cents to send thousands of items.
Yep.
Since then, obviously that's already changed. In fact, I'm pretty sure I saw it hit like 1,000 gwei yesterday, as everyone was cashing out of the market or something, freaking out. So part of the move to that, or the part of the reason why that's so bad, is because if you think of Ethereum, it's just that the main blockchain, they're talking about creating layer twos. So layer twos are supposed to take some of the workload off that main chain. Ethereum, you can do everything with. So you can create a smart contract to do NFTs, you can do decentralized finance, whatever, and it all hinges off that main chain. So as soon as everyone's using that, it gets extremely congested and it's expensive to do anything, just because so many people are using it. They're trying to push people to use layer two solutions in order to push off some of that traffic. But you don't have to. Someone can still go ahead and create an amazing project on basically the core layer, the core blockchain, and it will impact everyone who hasn't moved across or whatever. With Efinity, they've chosen to go onto Polkadot, and Polkadot, the core layer or the initial layer, you can't build smart contracts on, not directly on. You have to create them as a parachain or a parathread. So immediately from day zero, it forces all of that heavy traffic to be pushed off onto what are essentially layer two solutions. So there will never be a case where the heavy smart contracts are running on the main chain that's doing just consensus. So it's there to provide the security and consensus for the entire network. And the concepts are made, it's awesome. Like Gavin Wood is the creator, who is also a creator of Ethereum. And it's basically, how I equate it, is kind of what Ethereum are trying to do and trying to push to, but they've got like hundreds of thousands of rocks that they're trying to lift off themselves over on the other side of the road or something like that, or whatever. Like, they're just being held down so much that their progress is also very, very slow. Everyone's also using it. They've got to be careful not to break it and that sort of thing. So with Polkadot, you can you have these customized and specific use chains, and Efinity specific use is going to be for NFTs. And the way that they're doing it, they can actually also support any of the other smart contracts on Ethereum. So that could be Enjin or the Enjin coin, or even I think Ethereum itself. Actually, I'm not sure about that. Enjin coin and any NFTs, including not only Enjin NFTs, but like any NFT, any 721 contract, ERC 721. And basically what that means is they're almost creating like the next NFT, as you can say, superhighway or whatever, or system in place. So it's not just for the Enjin ecosystem, which is what the current iteration of Enjin is. Mm-hmm. And it also then allows a lot of other features. So things like discrete accounts is a really cool concept. It's in other blockchains like EOS as well. And basically it allows, for example, Lost Relics, the game, when you create an account, maybe you just sign up with your email and click the magic link or an email password or whatever. As the game, it can create a wallet for you that allows your account to have access to it and the game to have access to it. And you can then see it on the blockchain. You can see, transactions going in and out of it. But you don't even have to know that it actually exists. You can just completely play the game. Your items can be sent to that wallet. It's a wallet you can see publicly. Everyone else can see publicly. But no one has access to. Only the accounts that have been given access can actually make modifications on it. And at some point in the future, you can choose to take ownership of it. So when you know enough about blockchain, you can actually go ahead and do that. Whereas right now, I have to force you to create an account so that, well, it's kind of changed now again anyway, but I used to have to force you to take it because as soon as you'd finish your adventure, you'd be sent your items to your wallet. Mm-hmm. And so you had to have a wallet. And like right now, there's people who are new to the whole space. They received items and then didn't play for a while, and 3 months later they're back and they're like, oh, I don't have access to my wallet anymore. What happened to all those items I earned? Mm-hmm. Well, they're gone. If you didn't have your backup, if you didn't back up your seed words, then that's it.
Yeah.
So this having discrete accounts you can kind of get rid of that stuff because people will only take ownership over their um, account or their blockchain wallet or whatever when they actually understand how to do that and feel comfortable doing it. And until then, it's kind of just managed by the game, which is kind of like how I'm doing things now. Um, I'm just doing them off chain as opposed to on chain. But yeah. In fact, I can probably get rid of the whole requirement of the wallet thing right now, and just have people sign up without having to have their wallet. But then you need it for shadow stones and other stuff. So yeah, anyway, it basically allows for a much easier onboarding and use of blockchain technology without actually needing to understand it on day one. So that's one of the cool features of it. And the other thing is obviously sending items around to each other. They've got an integrated marketplace, and there's a few other like contract features where you could actually do on-chain minting. On-chain crafting. So, for example, in the game right now, well, actually, we used to have it with the quest system, where you turned in, say, 3 blockchain items, and then it gave you another blockchain item in the end. All of that can be created on chain so that it's all run through the blockchain, and you can see that, oh, this person, combined these items and made this other item, and you can kind of almost see the history of where it went or whatever.
Wow.
So yeah, so anyway, I don't know. It's basically an evolution of what we have now, and it's been a long time coming. Like, I've been waiting forever for Efinity, and I think at some point I know they were talking about Efinity for at least 1.5 years or 2 years or something. I think I heard about it when I first joined, and I imagine their original plans have probably changed because I don't believe that Polkadot was out at that time. So it's possible that they pivoted and went on to Polkadot instead. But it's an amazing choice. Like, I think they need to secure that slot, and it would be great to do this in the first round because you'll get the most exposure with being one of the first adopters to use Polkadot's para chains. So yeah, I mean, hopefully they get that, because then it also means that we get more features earlier, and I can actually push some of the Lost Relics stuff. Well, I'll push all of the Lost Relics stuff onto Efinity, basically, and so I can finally go back onto the blockchain. Whereas I've been hanging off doing off-chain stuff for a long time now.
Got it. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, that was huge.
That was huge. Yeah. Thank you for, answering that. No,
Random.
thank you for really going through that technical bit, Cliff. I appreciate it. And I should have gave you guys a warning. These next questions will be on Efinity, so it will be technical, but I'll try doing my best to try to either provide context initially before we get into the conversation, or try to give a nice little wrap up in this case. So, Cliff, if I could try summarizing to the best extent possible for what this
Can I
means for
use
Lost
one-word
Relics.
answers?
Sure. Yes. One word answers. But so right now the idea is that the items that you find within the game are in your game stash, which is off chain. For those of us users, for example, if I find a trauma hawk within a dungeon, and it right now it goes into my game stash, rather than back then what would have to happen is that you would have to transfer the item from the in-game wallet to the user's wallet, which at some point you realized was, it costed a lot in gas. So that's why you decided to go with this new method where it's off chain in terms of it going into your game stash. That's the off chain part, guys, if you're following me. The on-chain part would be me being a user with the Traumahawk in the game stash. I would have to use transfer crystals to move that item to my game wallet, which kind of puts a burden on the user because they have to use this additional step to move it from the game stash to the Enjin wallet. And it now sounds like with the idea of Efinity, things will be on chain so that whenever I do get an item in the future, perhaps in Lost Relics, the notion is that since the item is on chain and that my game stash, I believe this part, and correct me if I'm wrong, will also be on chain, and I won't have to recognize any sort of like I won't have to create a wallet until I kind of feel comfortable and understand the idea of Efinity, and then that's when I can create a wallet using Efinity, and the items that are in my game stash are technically also in this wallet as well. It's 1 to 1. Is that part correct, or am I missing something in that loop?
It's kind of correct, yeah. I'll just give a bit of background.
Sure,
So the way it used to work is when gas was 1 GWei, I used to just send the items out for free.
sure.
Um, I didn't have full understanding of how to do some of the optimizations for that sort of thing. So I later found out that you could batch items and send them at once. So I could send, one sort to this address, one sort to that address, one sort to that address, and it would all be in one transaction. And so therefore the transaction cost would be less than sending it individually.
Sure.
Um, so I've actually, like, I did that raise with getting founders tokens and people buying founders tokens and stuff. I actually lost money on that whole system because I was sending all the items that people found as soon as they found, and I sent them out automatically to them, and I paid all the gas.
Okay.
So I originally charged $100 for the pendants. The founders tokens.
Okay.
I spent way more than that in gas when I was paying for the transactions to send to everyone, and
Okay.
so for me, that whole not just sending out those tokens, but sending out the items and weapons and whatever afterwards.
Okay.
So I had to change the way that worked so that people had some way to prepay the gas because I just couldn't afford to keep doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the transfer crystals came from.
Got it.
And so that allows you to prepay only in ETH so that I can use that same ETH to then pay again to send you that item. That's also not good for me because in actual fact, if you look at tax laws, that ETH coming into my wallet, if there's a delay between it going out and there's a difference in price, I then have to take that as a capital gain or a loss, and then I
Yeah.
have to pay tax on it. So it's still not really that good for me to do because I am still getting smashed by a lot of things.
All right.
So that's how the current system works. And then what else are you saying? The part about Efinity, it kind of changes a little bit there because with the discrete accounts, I should be able to send from the game wallet, or like I should be able to just mint it directly to you. The items in the way that they were on Ethereum, when you set a limited supply on something, like if I say there's 1,000 of these swords,
Okay.
I have to pre-create. Oh, sorry. When there's 1,000 of those swords and they're collapsing, like mine are. So, for example, when you destroy one, the total supply goes down. I have to pre-mint them all. So I have to pre-mint all of those into my wallet. So I pay the costs in order to create them with the backing fee, the gas, all that sort of stuff.
Right.
And then that's why we've got at the moment, just a segue, people going, oh, look, there's this wallet here who's owning like 90% of the items. It's like, well, yeah, that's the game wallet because I had to pre-mint all the items in there.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. Anyway, so I'm not 100% sure. Actually, I wouldn't want to double check that, whether I still need to do the pre-minting like that on Efinity, because if I don't, it means I can actually directly mint the items straight to your wallet.
Wow.
in a single transaction. There's still transaction fees to pay. They're going to be paid with EFI, which is Enjin's token on Polkadot. I think it exists on Ethereum at the moment. They're going to port it across. But the other part of that is they also have a concept called, was it gas canisters or gas points or something? I can't remember the name they've given it. But basically, it's a way for me, for example, like the game can pre-stock these gas stations with EFI and specify that whenever someone else, like for example, if you send an item to someone else, that you can use some of that gas to pay for your transaction. So it actually helps reduce the cost for you.
Yeah.
In order to earn that EFI as well, there's another concept of if I set up Lost Relics as a node operator, essentially,
Yep.
and you vote for the Lost Relics, then I can earn EFI, and then I can use some of that EFI that's earned to fill those gas stations or gas canisters in order for you to pay for the transactions and for other things too. It's a pretty complicated thing. Like if you read the white paper,
I
it'll
did, yeah.
probably still not make much sense until you actually see it working. But the basic thing of is that it kind of creates an ecosystem where you guys can help me out, and then I can help you guys out too in order to pay for transactions and voting and stuff like that. So yeah, kind of a bit of a all over the place
Yeah.
answer there, but
No, no, I appreciate the clarification. I am getting an inkling of what could possibly transpire with Efinity. Again, for those of you guys that just want some clarification, it's possible that in the future, if Efinity is the solution, and Lost Relics does go on the Efinity train, if you find an item within a dungeon, it's possible, not guaranteed, but right now it's a possibility that Cliff can just immediately mint that item into your wallet. That
yeah,
way,
that would be sorry to just to clarify
yeah,
that
sure.
I would assume that's how it would work. I
Hmm.
don't know. I don't know 100% sure until I can actually do it. But I think the idea would be you would have that discrete wallet that's on your account,
Hmm.
and rather than now where I have an off-chain system which is
Yeah.
doing the tallying for you, I'd still have to have that for all your virtual items because they're not blockchain items. But for all your blockchain items, they would simply just be deposited into your wallet, your discrete wallet. And if you have ownership over it, you can just see it straight away. So it would kind of be the same thing as what it used to be. Almost like I'm sending you the item, except I still have some control over that wallet, so that you don't accidentally lose it or something.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, thanks again for answering that, guys. I know this is technical, but I really highly encourage you guys to check out the Efinity white paper so that you can try better understanding this. Because I'm not gonna lie, I'm currently listening in on this, and I'm probably gonna be rewatching this section a few times just to kind of understand what it means from a Lost Relics perspective. So thank you again, Cliff. So
So
if we're just gonna get again just a few more just a few more questions on Efinity. I hope I don't fry your brain, because I know that right now it's I think it's roughly 12 or 1 o'clock your time, so I know you still got a
yeah,
full
I
days.
have to stop for lunch soon.
So just to kind of touch on Efinity, if um assuming that we do move to Efinity, just assumption wise, um would the items of the future, so for example in the Medium article, like Halloween Medium article, you noted the following: the blockchain items that have been created off chain, and they will be converted to limited supply blockchain items as soon as we move to Efinity or some other blockchain solution, depending on the release of Efinity. Assuming that we do move to Efinity, would the items be minted on Enjin or Polkadot? And also, what does this mean for all the mainnet items? For example, the items that we have in our stash and our Enjin wallets. Because I think that the last part is really crucial to some of us account holders.
Yep. So it's complicated. So I'll try and explain as best as I understand it because um, I don't have all the details yet. I've sort of heard some information about how it should be and how it might work, but
Okay.
that'll change depending on. That's not up to me. That's up to Enjin. So when I announced that and when I talked about that sort of thing, Enjin were talking about um, the way that they want to do it or support it is that you can bring items over from mainnet onto Polkadot through the use of their bridge. But I think the bridge was going to be available later, after they've launched Efinity. So to me, with the way that I've seen Enjin work, that's usually a delay of a couple of months. And so if I relied on the bridge to move all the old items across, it would mean that we're going to be in this kind of a weird state where we have items sitting on mainnet, and you're like, oh no, that particular sword that you've got there, that's on mainnet, so you actually can't send that to Nondairi because he's already on Efinity.
Yeah.
You'll need the other address, and then later on, at some point, we'll have to move them across. Yeah, I don't know. It sounds really complicated.
Yeah.
That's one option. The other option was to recreate items or to like create new items on JumpNet, but the same issue would have happened there, where now we have items on mainnet and on JumpNet, and Enjin were going to create bridges for those to move them across. But I don't know what benefit we would have really gotten. You know, the benefit of recreating the items on JumpNet was the gasless sending to each other and trading. I've given the trading, I haven't done the sending to each other directly, just because I'm battling some like fraud type stuff there. I've got to be kind of careful of that. I just prefer to leave that for now rather than setting that up. I'll just leave it to the blockchain to do.
Okay.
So there's that side of it. And then there's the other option of just trying to pull in all the mainnet items from everyone, which is what I've been encouraging people to do if they can. I'm just saying you should, just if you can, send them to the game because it'll be easier in the future. The idea being that I will basically do a mass melt of all those items to get rid of them and then recreate them from scratch on Polkadot and recreate them with the same properties that they have now. In some cases, that'll be smaller supplies, like for example on the founders tokens.
Yeah.
And also, if we had some difficulties with going to Efinity, like there was problems or whatever, it didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
If I had all those items from mainnet, it would still mean that I can just mass melt, and I would be needing to recreate the items on whatever blockchain we went to. So that was kind of like the best option. Since then, Enjin have said that they are looking at a way to do full account transfers.
Wow.
So that means if you've got all your blockchain items on mainnet now, they'll have a way to basically flip them onto Polkadot and void all the ones that are on mainnet on Ethereum.
Wow.
I don't know how it's going to exactly work there because they've got some items that are half on the marketplace and whatnot. And while that's good, if something happens with Efinity and we can't go down the route with Efinity, that still doesn't help us. You'd still have to send your items in. And there's also like the future thing of Ethereum 2.0, which may or may not bring gas prices down. So it might be fine to do any of the above, or even to trade the old mainnet items. So I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns. That's the information that I have right now. Until Efinity is released and until I can start using it, I don't have any like advice either way. Like if you want to send your items in, that seems like the best choice at the moment, because if we were to change blockchains, or if I was to get rid of all the old items on mainnet, then that seems like the easiest option for everyone, because then I would just simply credit their accounts with items on the new blockchain, whether that's on Polkadot/Efinity or some other chain, and then you would just have the item sent out to your wallet. That seems like the easiest, but obviously I understand gas is so expensive that you can't really do that all the time. And even melting the items, I can't do that myself because it costs a fortune. I think it's going to cost like $1 million or something to just melt everything. I had a quick look the other day and I'm like, this is insane.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I don't know what the thing about sending them to the wallet is that you prove your ownership. I'm not going to do something where I take a snapshot in time and say, oh yeah, everyone who had items before this now gets the items on the other thing, because I can't stop people doing transactions in between. If someone bought an item, or like I, since doing that snapshot, decided to sell it online to someone else and that person bought it, suddenly I've got a problem, because they're going to be like, well, hang on, I bought this item and I have this item in my wallet now. Why don't I have access to that item? And I'll have to be like, well, that's just because at this particular time you weren't there in this moment in time to take a snapshot. Anyway, it doesn't work. You have to turn in your item and then you'll get one given in the other blockchain, if that's the way that goes.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. There's a lot. There's several different things to figure out there. I don't know what the answer is to that.
Yeah.
And I won't know until Efinity is released. So I'll have more information around it when that happens and when I know more. But until then, that's what I'm thinking about, or that's all the information that I have.
Yeah. No, thanks again, Cliff. I know, again, this has kind of been a concern for some people who own mainnet items, either purchasing it from, Nginx.io or purchasing it from OpenSea, or even just some of those that have accumulated blockchain items from, dungeons, just stumbling upon them, or even transacting on the blockchain emporium. So, yeah, thank you. So, guys,
Uh,
yeah, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the goal is, I don't know why everyone's freaking out or so worried about it. Like the goal is to ensure that you have your items, and
Yeah.
eventually we're going to be moving back onto the blockchain. So um, that's what the goal is. So as long as you follow everything and you read up all the information and that sort of thing, you'll be fine. It's I don't think it's going to be a case where you'll get left behind and then lose something like that. It shouldn't happen. I don't think there'll be need to be a time limit on some of that stuff, but that may change too. I don't know. Depends on if there's going to be a time limit on Efinity's bridge or there's a time limit on um, the queries that they provide into Ethereum. Like maybe they'll say, "Oh, we're going to expire that service in 6 months," and I'll be like, "Okay, everyone's got 6 months to send their items in, otherwise you lose them." But I don't know.
Okay.
So
So
yeah.
I did have a few more questions on Efinity, but I know we're kind of already an hour and 30 minutes in. And I know that you want to eat lunch, so I'm just going to ask one more question on Efinity, and then I'm going to get to those fan-driven questions. So just total three questions. So the last thing I want to talk about Efinity was and I'm going to read an excerpt from the white paper, and just would like your thoughts on a question that I have about it. So every asset on Efinity can be exchanged for any other NFT or digital token that is bridged onto the network. For example, an imported token such as ETH can be exchanged for a non fungible token. This functionality facilitates development of third party apps using Efinity to transfer NFTs to other blockchains, from blockchain based games on other networks to NFT marketplaces and exchange platforms. The key that kind of stood out to me there was from blockchain based games on other networks. Does this mean that we could possibly see cross functionality for Lost Relics items on other chains in the future if the opportunity were to arise, such as perhaps Lost Relics item being usable on a game based on the Wax platform, or vice versa?
Yeah, it's kind of the other way around. It's so the way that Engine have created that is they're kind of like trying to pull the items from all the other platforms onto Efinity.
Hmm.
Um, whether those platforms support it the other way or not, I'm not sure. I
Okay.
mean, you can speculate on it, possibly not. I think what their goal there is to have people who are using those other blockchain solutions will
Sure.
come over to Efinity because it's just so easy for them to have all their items move across with the bridge. Um, and then you can also do interoperability. So, like right now, um, I can support other items that are in the Engine
Yep.
universe,
Sure.
but I don't have an easy way through Engine's systems to, for example, support like apes or something like that, like one of the other Ethereum
Got it.
projects. I'd have to custom write something like that. So with Efinity, all of that stuff should be much easier. Like I should be able to go, oh, look, I feel like I want to give support for this thing so my community can use those items on it or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, then yes, that sort of thing should be possible. And the idea being as well, because they've got the part in there that you probably haven't read just yet or isn't around that area, is you can also bid on those
Yes.
items
Yes.
and kind of like with enough value in it, pull them across because someone will be like, well, hang on, I want to have that amount of money that this person's offering for it. And so they'll then move it onto Efinity.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, so thanks for answering that question. So, guys, you can start speculating away about possible blockchain cross functionality uses from other chains. Of course, given that the other party is, of course, willing and able to, you know, provide some sort of benefit for us Lost Relics players, as well. So speculate away, but thank you for answering that question because I know it's not easy. And I did know about the bid and ask orders. That was actually going to be part of what I was going to ask later on, but again, I think that's something that we can always address at a later point. So now that I've kind of finished up the questions that I have, by the way, thank you for answering my questions, Cliff. We have two
Right.
questions from the members of Discord. Big shout out to Dr. Loot, one of your volunteer mods. He's been active. He's been a wonderful asset to the community, and he created a poll for for a couple questions that we could ask here. So this is going back to Lost Relics, and I'm sure you're gonna love this first question. What's Cliff's future plan for an in-game play to earn economy, and if there are plans for a deeper play to earn rather than play and be lucky mechanisms?
Um, it really depends on what your definition of play to earn is. It sounds like when people are like, "Oh, play to earn," that means I'm now replacing my wage or salary with a constant stream from the game, and I can calculate at this rate per hour. Um, I don't know. I mean, if you look at games like Axie Infinity, who seem to have like pioneered that, they're kind of backpedaling on some of that as well because it's not really that good to set up something like that. Um, if there's a way to earn without skill and with skill and without luck, there's that whole thing of gambling as well. They cross into the gambling definition. I think gambling definition was games of luck, like purely of luck, are considered gambling, where you earn a wage or something. Anyway, so I've already added like you can earn items, like you can earn blockchain items,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know why people don't talk about this more, but you can also earn shadow stones, which is directly earning Enjin.
Yep.
So you can already do that, but it's not like it's dropping you X amount per hour or anything like that. It's still based on the randomness because you still need to use some skill to go through the dungeons in order to find that stuff in the first place. And if you don't have the skill to get through, then you don't get any rewards. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, why should the game start paying you a wage at a particular rate? Whatever rate it pays you, are you going to be happy with that depending on where you live? Like, some people will because they're in areas where they can't earn any other thing, and some people won't. Like, isn't it just better to have it random? And I don't know. It's an interesting subject, I guess. I don't know that it's a good idea to have it as a guaranteed income because, like, imagine what happens if it's set up as a guaranteed income
Mm-hmm.
and they have to take the server down for a week, or the value of that coin that they're backing it with drops suddenly. Like, then who is responsible for that? Is the game player now going to be like, well, hang on, you're not giving me the same amount of money I was used to beforehand?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this is why in business and stuff, there's contracts with being paid at a certain rate in your local currency and all that kind of thing. Like, it kind of creates a weird reward space and a weird legal space as well for all that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that it won't happen more in the future, but I mean, I'm already dabbling in that kind of thing. Not only have you got like I said, the weapons and items and relics and stuff, but you can already earn. You're already playing to earn.
Yeah.
Like, this whole pay to win thing again. Like, everyone's definition is different now. So some people play to earn is I'm playing to replace my wage. Other ones, it's like I'm playing a game, which you've been able to do for like 50 years, but you haven't earned anything while playing the game, and now you can actually earn something.
Yeah.
How much that something is up to is up to the individual person. And then if it doesn't match whatever they're expecting, they're just claiming that it's not pay to earn. But it already is. So I
Yeah.
don't know. It's an odd thing to answer, I guess.
No,
No matter what you pay out or give out will always not be correct for someone anyway. So
no,
whatever.
I definitely agree. And there's so much I can say about this, but I think you really provided the perfect response, especially for those people that are in the stream right now, looking to play Lost Relics at some point in time. I mean, it's like the only thing I'll say is it's unfortunate that Axie Infinity, although it's a great game, is being considered the staple or people's definition in their mind of what play to earn is. It's not like the idea of play to earn is you can play the game and you can possibly earn wages, within, because again, when you talk about Lost Relics, one day I can go in a dungeon, I can make $100 if I stumble upon a legendary item or, something of the sort. And another day I can make $0, but that's not the way I look at it. The game Lost Relics to me is a game that I enjoy from being able to level up a character, being able to play a game that reminds me of Diablo, heck, even Torchlight, from the isometric, camera play style, as well as being able to go into dungeons. And I have the chance of earning something with the blockchain item, but I don't look at that in terms of dollar signs. I look at it as a sense of accomplishment, like, oh man, I just stumbled across this item. I don't even care if it's 40 cents. It's something that I was able to use through my blood, sweat, and tears, metaphorically, of course. And so I think, again, I think this idea of play to earn that you just kind of defined for us is a staple. And it's unfortunate that people are kind of warping this idea of blockchain games and looking at it as a means of salary, which again, it's a complicated subject. But again, thank you for answering that question.
So,
And
yeah,
so
I mean, it's a similar kind of thing, I guess, with I've said it before, where we kind of, it feels like we skipped over the whole item ownership, because that was the main thing, was that you can sink time into the game, and then later on at some point you might decide, oh, I'm finished playing this game, I'm going to play something else, and you can sell and um,
yeah,
get back some value from the game. And that was the kind of major draw card that blockchain gaming gave, and we kind of skipped that because Axie jumped over that and just said, oh, now we're just paying, people were able to calculate a certain rate per hour that they can get from the game, and now the focus seems to be solely on that for a lot of people. Yeah, I don't know, it depends. See, those people that realize that it's something else as well, I think benefit more from it in the long run, not only from themselves but maybe also financially too. There's some people out there who just look for quick dollars and stuff, and cash out quickly or whatever, and there's other people who will hold on to items to see what will happen in the future, and that may or may not open further opportunities in the future. You don't necessarily know, and sometimes I don't even know where it's going to go,
yeah,
depending on feedback and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
awesome. Again, yeah, thanks for answering the question on play to earn, especially from the fans side. Um, the next question that was driven by the fans is, a lot of people are speculating with when the concept when WEN, which I'm sure you're very familiar with, and we are all excited about new updates. I know everything is subject to change and that there is no expected release dates for features, but could you make a non-dated timeline of which roadmap features you are thinking of working on first, second, and so on? And I know you already touched on this topic early on when we were kind of talking about housing. So, for example, I think if we look at the LostRelics.io site and you see there's a list of items on the roadmap, there isn't something that says dash Q1, like arenas, or I mean housing dash Q1 2022, arena dash Q2 2022, so forth and so on. But I guess people are wondering if you could maybe implement this sort of system, again, in terms of a non-dated timeline, but a relative sort of area.
Well, that isn't that a dated timeline if you just say quarter one, quarter two? That's just still pinning it to some time, some moment in time.
Yes, I guess it
The
is.
list is there. It's not like there's no list. So there's a list there of the upcoming features and stuff. As I've said before, sometimes things change. I'm talking about wanting to redo the adventures. That's not necessarily on the roadmap. It's new adventures. But in order to do those new adventures and to add support for some other things, I need to push back other things in order to do that. If I had a dated or time pinned roadmap, no matter how loose it would be, you can bet there's someone sitting there watching it every day going, oh, look, we've just gone past quarter two. Where's my co-op? It was
Right.
promised in quarter two. I'm like, well, it got pushed back because other things are done. Like, is it valuable to put a specific date on there? I don't know. I mean, I understand you want to look forward to things. But at the same time, like this, yeah, it's difficult to pin some of those things down. And if I release it and it's horrible, and then you'll hate it, and you'll be like, okay, well, that was crap. I'm not coming back. Then yeah, I mean, sure, that'll happen.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, I'm trying to pick the higher valuable gameplay things. I'm not picking things that are just going to make me rich that people seem to say that I should be doing, that other projects are doing. Like,
Right.
like what you were talking about before was releasing white papers. I could release a white paper that says, this is how I'm going to do this. And everyone's like, yeah, cool, I'm going to buy in. And then
Right.
when is that going to happen? I don't know. I'm kind of developing things, allowing you to see it grow, and you can make up your mind about where you think it's going to happen anyway. You know what's coming. I've said what's coming. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, even with a AAA studio and stuff, they won't show you everything.
Yeah.
In fact, I think they mostly do announcements for what's coming the week before it's released. They don't tell you
Right.
anything about that sort of stuff. So, similar kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah, awesome. I think one thing I'll add to this is I just looked at chat briefly, and so one of the viewers talked about how maybe instead of a non-dated timeline like the example I provided, maybe providing percentages near each roadmap item. But I think you already kind of addressed that, from the sense
As
that,
percentages as how complete that thing is.
yeah, a percentage of completion,
Yeah, I don't
perhaps.
know. I guess it depends on what that feature is, and if it sits too long on a particular percentage, is that going to freak some people out? Like,
Right.
I don't know. Just my experience so far with some of the people in this space uh, get very, very, very focused on details, and if the details don't line up 100%, or a date is missed by half an hour or something like that, like they just lose their minds. And I just prefer not to create that kind of anxiety for people in the first place.
Yeah.
And it seems to create less when you don't specify everything so exactly. So
I think it's fair, and I think and I think you bring up a good point. I'll say this. Cliff, I'm just gonna wrap this up now because Cliff, I know you probably heard me say this a million times. People in the chat heard me say this a million times, but just thank you, thank you, thank you so much for being here with me today. I've kind of had you on the chair here for nearly 2 hours. I'm sure your lunch is cold by now. um, I just wanted to just put one last thing, out there. So although you dropped a great mind bomb here in terms of the pets, we know that the Christmas event is coming up. We know that you've put out leaks in the chat for us to look at, but is there anything that maybe you can tell us just to give me one last little, let's just call it a Christmas present before the event comes out and before you release the Medium article, um, for us to know now versus sometime at some point? Can you drop one more non-dairy exclusive?
well, I did with the adventures thing. Do you mean specifically about Christmas, or
Yes,
what
Christmas
do you
if
mean?
possible. If possible. Because again, these details might be released in the Medium article, but is there anything you can give us as a non dairy exclusive? Just one last punch to where I can just tell people, that's right, non dairy got Cliff saying this. Something like that.
I don't know. I don't want to ruin it too much. Like, I feel like some of the things that I'd say would just um, ruin any of the surprise. Like, I kind of want it to feel like it's Christmas morning and you're like running around going, oh, whoa, look at this. Oh, this has all changed. Oh, whatever. That in itself, just me saying that, is kind of like a leak. So
Sure, sure. Well, yeah.
there's some changes around town that you'll see, I'm sure, for Christmas. It's a bit different. There's some um, different events and different things. Like, you've already seen one of the leaks
Mhm.
there. No one really knows what that is. You can speculate about what that might be and how that fits together. Um, Maybe one of the things I could say is previously, with all the other events, as you all know, it's extremely difficult for me to balance limited supplies with an unknown player base. I've talked about it before. The example is, let's say you, Nondairi, are giving away 10 swords on your stream. And you want it to, and you're just randomly giving them away in the background as people are like clicking a button or something. The computer system is asking you, what drop rate do you want to give it? And you're like, oh, I don't know, like 20% or something like that.
Mhm.
And because you think that you're maybe going to get 100 people, that'll take like a minute and it'll be all gone.
Sure.
All your 10 swords will be gone. But what happens if you get like 1,000 people viewing your stream, or 10,000? Like, it's going to be gone in a second or less, and you'll have 9,990 upset people because they didn't get anything, and 10 happy people who may have gotten something. That whole thing where it's limited items and everything for the events is very, very, very difficult to balance, especially when I have to aim the event to last for, let's say, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I have limited items, and I don't really know how many people to do it. In a real world example might be they have 10,000 gift bags, and they've only sent out 10,000 invite tickets, and so they know they're going to have 10,000 guests. Everyone will get something. It doesn't work like that in this space. I'd have to possibly do it where you have to pre-register for the event, and I can maybe pre-allocate items. I don't know. It kind of doesn't work. So it's going to be a little bit different for Christmas. The item supplies are not going to be set, or not going to be preset at a specific value. They will simply be set, or like the chance to drop will be set based on their rarity. So rare items will drop less often than legendary items. More often than legendary items.
Yeah.
I'm getting tired. And the goal there is it'll just depend on how much people are grinding and playing and participating as to the items they get. People shouldn't miss out necessarily. It's still down to RNG. But there's no specific item limit, and I don't then have to try and adjust the drop rates based on the people. So the end result should be, when the event is over, we'll have certain counts of the items that have been given out to everyone. And then at that point, when the event's over, I'll fix the supply on all of them.
Wow.
So it will actually give us a snapshot of every event every time it happens, and the participation of people and how that happened. So you can see, oh, look, in Christmas 2021, there was 10,000 of these items given out or something like that. And then you'll see the year after, you'll see how it's grown because there was 100,000 items of that type given out or something like that. It creates a more fluid size of items. It ensures that everyone should get rewarded as long as they're playing. And it should give a snapshot in time of that event that happened. Because it kind of shows you the participation levels, I guess, of that sort of thing happening. So it'll remove from me having to see, oh no, I guessed that there was going to be 5,000 players, but now there's actually 10,000 playing, and the items are just going to dry up in 3 days instead of 7.
Right.
All I'll have done is I've just have preset the drop rates to feel rewarding, and then beyond that, it'll just depend on how many people are playing, and it doesn't matter then. I don't have to stress. I don't have to change anything. I don't have to adjust the drop rates in order to ensure that it lasts that 2 weeks. It'll just be however long or as many items will come out will just be however many people are playing, or if people stop playing, then items will stop dropping, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, huge explanation for it, but the end result is, I actually feel like it's a really cool indication. It'll only happen for these events, I think, at the moment. It'll give a really cool indication of how many people participated. And they'll only be, the items won't drop outside of their rarity things. They'll still drop within the rarity things. So there'll be less of legendary items than there are rare items. But the supply of them and the amount of them that are out there is more fluid and dynamic, as opposed to being fixed and then having to keep it fixed within that time period. So I hope that makes sense.
Perfect. No, I appreciate that little Christmas present, Cliff. And honestly, I'm so glad I took the last 2 weeks off of work to be able to dedicate to the Christmas event. Because, just not wanting to speculate or anything, but I'm assuming Christmas event will be in December, and hence took the last 2 weeks off because just need to use a PTO. But took off the last 2 weeks, so perfect. I love this new system that's going to be implemented, and I think it'll do wonders for participation, hype behind the event, so forth and so on. So I'm gonna end it on that because we're at the 2 hour mark. Cliff, once again, big thank you for stopping by. I hope that you enjoyed this AMA session, and I hope that I can see you, or we can see you back on my stream sometime in the future. I promise it won't go this long again.
No worries. Thanks, Derry. Thanks for having me. Thanks for everyone else for joining in and listening. I know it's been ages since I've streamed myself. I've just been focusing on a lot of things and just had a few things in personal life that have kind of changed around and haven't really made it too possible for me to do a few things recently. But yeah, I mean, definitely looking forward to the future and hoping that you guys are going to really enjoy the Christmas event.
Awesome. Well, just to wrap things up, guys, if you enjoyed this AMA with Cliff and I, please be sure to check out the socials that we have here, lostrelics.io, the website itself. If you want to check out the game, purchase a 7-day pendant to be able to start playing. If you're a new user, at Lost Relics Game, please be sure to follow them because there will be a tweet out there where Cliff releases the Medium article for the Christmas event, so you definitely want to hit the follow it there. Twitch.tv/Lost Relics Game. It sounds like there's a little Easter egg there. Cliff may stream Lost Relics at some point, so please be sure to hit the follow there. And join discord.gg/Lost Relics to, of course, get the most up-to-date information and engage with the community of gamers that are genuinely interested and believing in this awesome blockchain game/project. So once again, everybody, thank you so much. I'm going to let Cliff go here.
Cheers, Nondairi. Thanks,
Cheers.
everyone.
Thank you.
Catch you later.
Catch you.
See ya.
Thank you. All right, everybody. So thank you. Seriously, thank you so much for being here. I really hope I did a great job with this AMA. First one I ever did. It's been an honor just being here with someone as great as Cliff Cawley. And if you guys enjoyed the video, please be sure to also check it out on YouTube because I'm going to be uploading it on YouTube as well. Each like, comment, and subscribe would mean the world to me. We're trying to get a goal of 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. I promise I will be there making content for Lost Relics, in terms of the Christmas event, the Medium article, and many more events to come. So please be sure to check me out on YouTube. And again, if you guys enjoyed the video, enjoyed the AMA, please be sure to also stop by on my Twitch as well and let me know how I did. I'm probably going to be streaming Lost Relics tomorrow just because the grind never stops. So please let me know how I did. It'd mean a lot. And with that being said, thank you so much.